Hi, I think I'm the last thing between you and lunch, so I'll try to be efficient. So we are trying to take a very analytically driven approach. I think that colloquially has become Moneyball. And there's a lot of ways we've done it. And I'll sort of meld a couple of my experiences together, both the experience at WarnerMedia, which is a little more recent, and a longer run experience with Legendary Entertainment as well, which is another producer of tentpole technically. So you are probably aware that WarnerMedia is a company that is comprised primarily of Warner Brothers, Turner, which is TNT, TBS, CNN, as well as HBO. You're probably also pretty well aware that that company was acquired by AT&T back in June. Within that construct, within that company, we sit as a team that is applied analytics team. And really our mandate is to try to use data and analytics to find people and understand them better to then get them to make the choices that we're looking for them to make. Maybe just a quick word on my team just to give some context. So we sit within the company, as I said, we sort of bridge the company. We are comprised of data scientists. We have dozens of people, by the way. So we have data scientists, we have software developers who take data integration across both our own first-party data as well as other sources. And then, of course, we have people who actually take these concepts and apply them back in directly, whether it's for a marketing campaign for a movie, or whether it's for a television show or some other purpose. So I got pulled into this industry. It was a time in my life where I'd been running a company that I'd started and sold. It was actually a Moneyball company. We were working with professional sports teams across the NBA, NFL, a bunch of teams in Europe. And in that context, we're taking these same principles, which is trying to use these tools to uncover, almost like shed light on pockets of opportunity or inefficiencies in markets. I happen to know the CEO and founder of Legendary because he's an owner of the Steelers. And in that context, he literally called me up one day and said, "You want to come to Hollywood and do Moneyball there?" And I said, "Sure." Timing was good. It was interesting. It felt like a similar challenge. It felt like a similar place that sports had been say 10 years before, where data was burgeoning but still untapped. There was a lot of opportunity to grow, and we had a nice playground in terms of the kinds of movies we were producing. And in those movies, you've heard of probably most of them, would be the Godzilla, Kong, the Dark Knight trilogy, Hangover, those types of movies. So we built that team within the company, and then sort of progressed into WarnerMedia over time. We sold Legendary to Wanda, actually, which is a Chinese conglomerate. Wanda is a massive Chinese company that has lots of different holdings. We were a pretty significant purchase of theirs. A lot of these things feel very immodest, so I apologize, but I didn't choose all the words. So accomplishments. Our goal is to build capabilities that we can deploy at scale, right? So whether it was across our own business at Legendary at that time or now at WarnerMedia, the idea and the concept is, can we build actual tools, things that can enable or drive the goals we have, particularly when it comes to identifying people and driving content to them. And that ranges from everything from audience discovery all the way through to media buying. So for example, a suite of tools we have are all around propensity models, right? So if you're trying to construct an audience in sort of tiered framework where we've got individual people, or maybe not quite individuals, but certainly micro-segments of people that are very precisely defined, to another level where they are defined maybe by some general interest in the head that overlap with the properties, and then ultimately to some demo buying if we need the scale. So that's sort of the construct of what we're trying to construct. Media buying is a part of that as well, where you put your money on what platforms, and so on. So I'm pulling a movie from a couple of years ago, I guess now, called Warcraft, which is a Legendary movie that we released globally. Did okay. But it did particularly well in China. And China was a place where we controlled every aspect of that movie's distribution. And in particular, what we did was we used these capabilities and transported them to China very directly. And since then, we've done this with several movies since, over the last 3 or 4 years. And what we were doing was taking these tools around understanding audience, understanding preferences, and trying to get to the point of saying, how do we find really precise people that have a high probability to buy a ticket? The reason why China is an interesting one and an important one for us is it's actually a place where we can measure conversion, where we can actually literally tie ticket sales back to activities. And that was critical because in our business, that's very hard to do. Oftentimes, a movie's produced And even if we're distributing it, the transactions, if you will, the actual interactions with the consumers are happening not at an exhibitor level, like at a theater or wherever. And we don't have that access. And so this is a rare opportunity for us to actually measure that. And we can see pretty massive lifts. For every dollar spent, you get 89 back, which is terrific. But even more so, what we were doing is focusing on a persuadable set of people. Our whole goal was not to just sort of fish in the barrel, so to speak, where we could identify people who we thought were more, or groups of people who we thought were more likely to be ticket buyers, and we would actually not spend time on them. Because our assumption is that they will be ones who find the movie in other places, whether it's through outdoor advertising or some other digital broad purchase in terms of media. But we were looking, and we also, by the way, want to ignore all the people who are never going to buy the ticket, right? That's equally important, obviously maybe even more so. So we were really focused on people who we could find as a lift, people who we could deem as persuadable, such that when we actually serve them the right kind of messaging in the right moment on the right platform, that actually lifts the probability of buying a ticket. And then we could, with some control groups and things, show a 3 to 3.5x increase in likelihood, which is, again, massively important, especially when media, even though the scale of spend we have is pretty significant, it's still one where we have to be cautious of efficiency. Again, another immodest title. So what we really try to do is establish these strategies and be able to, again, it sounds cheesy, but to kill as many birds with the same stone. Right? So if we can build a capability that allows us to be smarter about consumer products or games or TV or movies, that's the ideal. And we want to empower people to be able to take advantage of that tool to then deploy that into the market. Now, again, we have a team that gets very involved in some very specific areas. We actually get very plugged in against that movie campaign. But we also want to be able to empower many more people to do similar kind of work. And that's that search for efficiency. Like, where can we find that efficiency? Is it efficiency in media spend? Is it efficiency in sort of platform allocations and so on? Right? We're always looking for that efficiency. It's really important. I saw this a lot in sports, and I think it's important in life, not coming across as superior. Like, there's sort of almost an inherent trait sometimes with the people who come from a data background to come across as a little bit holier than thou, to have this sort of impression that the data is revealing all the truth, and that truth is now flowing through them into the world, right? And that's dangerous. So that's sort of sort of off-putting. It creates a really difficult dynamic. So we were always very conscious of that and recognized that. And so, ways that we try to mitigate that have been to take things that we find and blend them into a format, whether it's a format that someone's comfortable with, like a conversation, or maybe a narrative email, or something more sophisticated like an interactive dashboard, to put it in a context that really gets two benefits. Right? One is to confirm intuition people already have. Right? So we're great with that. Like, if we can confirm someone's intuition, their immediate reaction, like, oh, I already knew that. The reality is you've now put a level of precision around it that's higher than they would have had. You've also implicitly removed other parts of their intuition, right? Or at least taken them off the table. But then once we establish that sort of trust, then what we try to do is then weave in more things to make it a little more surprising. Right? I don't know what the proportions end up being. It's just the natural ones tend to be something like maybe 2/3 of what we would come up with are confirming intuition, maybe 1/3 are sort of new. But that's a great mix because you sort of build a stability in the foundation while it's inserting new ideas. And we really do try to talk about data at a very high level. At Legendary, there were, I think it was 5 C-level people. I was one of them, and we were all at the same table. Right? We had that kind of conversation. WarnerMedia, the scale is much too big for that, so we've constructed a literal board that is where my team kind of rolls into, that has representatives across the company, that ensures that what we're doing and how we're plugging in is very efficiently deployed out, and that we're focusing on the right things. This is definitely where reality kicks in. So lots of missteps, lots of mistakes. I mean, we are a fail fast kind of mentality. One of my early mistakes here especially was walking the door. My perception was only behavioral data. Only the data that we can perceive as someone's actual behavior is all we care about. There's actually a couple other things you can learn about people. You can learn about what they say even in a survey. Right? So the behavioral data is much more complicated. Right? Sometimes they're in structure, it's huge scale, billions and billions of data points, and so on. And it seems like a more almost like interesting thing to go tackle, but surveys are actually something we still use. They're great. We tie them back to the data science. So the things that you do are one thing. The things you say to sort of report about yourself is another thing. And a third thing is what you tell your friends. Right? So what you're doing on social media, how you're interacting with the world, that's a whole other area. So we now try to balance all three of those perspectives in whatever we do. I've definitely made this mistake, which is sometimes being too blunt. Like, someone's got a precious baby they've been cultivating for years, and come in with this sharp perspective that maybe is off-putting. Again, it kind of goes back to that same presentation thing. And you do have to sweat the little things sometimes, right? So I'll give you one quick example. When we design tools, we build all these proprietary in-house tools that look across, say, social media, and they'll look at billions and billions of data points. And that's amazing. It does incredible stuff. Our data scientists and our development team have done incredible things with that. The problem is the very initial query that you set up to search across that, sort of massive data store can really be hard. Like the movie Her. Can you imagine trying to set up a query to understand the movie Her with a name like that? It's very difficult. So being really zeroed in and accepting and acknowledging those kinds of flaws even are important. Then real quick on the future state. For us, as I mentioned earlier, conversion is really one of the most important things. As the world goes to a more direct-to-consumer sort of model, that's much better for us. We can actually learn and interact with people much more actively. And of course, as you all know, the data landscape is shifting on a day-to-day basis, whether it's governance or whether it's privacy, whether it's even regulatory. So we need to be agile and be able to adapt appropriately. And with that, we can do just a quick Q&A. Great. Thank you.
A lot of this is an internal challenge, and I think particularly when it comes to applying analytics and the rigor of data to what was formerly an intuition-driven field, whether that's politics or entertainment, there's been crudely two camps, I think, set up, and probably falsely. So how do you get beyond that dichotomy of
the two camps being
intuition versus
Sure. Yeah, it's tricky. Some of it comes through the attitude and the way in which we connect with that. So I guess I technically, definitionally, am in that other camp, the latter camp, right? But the intuition is still an important thing. I think when you think of it from an intuition perspective, your intuition really is still being fueled by data. It's data that you've collected in your mind, you've read things, you've heard things, and you're assimilating it in your mind. It's still a data-driven process. Similarly, the data side of things has a lot of intuition built into it, whether it's how you sort of, the hypotheses or theories or precepts you use to build the tools you're building or the approaches you're taking, that has an intuition kind of baked into it as well. So I think you're right that the perception is they're these sort of two discrete camps, but in fact, if you look under the hood, they actually have a lot of similarities. And so we try to sort of illuminate these similarities and tap into those. Right? So by being very forthcoming about the approach, by being forthcoming about the assumptions and the theory, but also tapping into and respecting what the people who have a more intuition-based approach to their career and understanding where they're coming from and trying to meld the two together is actually the ultimate scenario. Yeah. That just builds a natural bridge.
How different is applying analytics to the sports? Because I think it really took off and everyone likes to go to Moneyball, but there was definite resistance. There still is probably in the NFL, frustratingly, to something like entertainment.
I'll start with some similarity and then a really difference.
Okay.
Just to make it sort of connect. So similarity is these are both very ambiguous environments. Right? These are both environments where you can't run a true control test. You can't say, I'm going to play the game this way or draft this player and test it for what if we drafted this other player or something like that. And similarly, you can't say, well, I'm going to make a movie this way and that way and then see how they both turn out and then make a second decision based off that. Those are impossible. I think the thing that's different about them is, in sports, you've got actually, frankly, more bites of the apple. Right, so even in an NFL season, you've got 16 games. So certainly in an NBA season, you've got 82. And those are a lot of opportunities to learn and iterate. And you've got seasons where there's consistency, right? There's sort of a through line where it may not go on forever, but maybe for 2, 3, 4 years, you have enough of a history to build new perspectives. And I don't fully buy into this concept, but a lot of people believe it, and I think it's partially true, that content, each of them are kind of snowflakes, right? They're all a little bit different. And to actually construct a history to look at a movie like A Star is Born or something, which actually literally has precedence, right? That movie we released a month or two ago, has literal precedence to it. It's still a very hard thing because now you have Lady Gaga, you've got Bradley Cooper doing it's a modern version, and so on. And so that's a real challenge. It's a real difficulty is how do you actually build the history? And so what we try to do is learn as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, create those iterations within much shorter windows, maybe 6 or 8 weeks, or maybe if we're lucky over the course of a year, rather than looking at history that becomes almost a time machine where you can go back and see how things have changed over 4 or 5 NFL seasons.
So has the success of Netflix helped internal buying, particularly at the top? Because Netflix got a lot of attention and credit for applying data to greenlighting projects, for instance.
Sure. I don't think so, to be honest. I think it brought it to a forefront. I think in sports there's a different phenomenon. Like the Moneyball book literally came out, and we were fortunate to have already been sort of doing it in advance, but it really was a sea change. Like literally just everything turned on a dime, like within almost felt like weeks. I think here it's a lot different. I think it's just, especially because Netflix's models, its distribution model, even earlier on, was so different than everyone else's. It didn't seem relevant. It just seemed like a different animal. I think what's turned the tides even more is the changes kind of in the marketing and media space for things like the emergence and sort of acceleration of digital platforms like social or other more direct targeted methods. Like that actually feels like there's been a bigger catalyst for change than Netflix is. Which, I mean, again, it's a very fair question. It's just that I think the sort of opportunity to apply it is actually more relevant. That's a more sort of catalyzing that.
Mm-hmm. What were some mistakes made? I mean, you sort of talked about them, and I think going in is like, well, the data says this, and maybe I don't know, that can be alienating, I guess.
Sure, of course, yeah.
In that data camp.
Yes, that's certainly a potential mistake. I haven't made it recently, but I have made it. I think the similar one being that super blunt version can also be very off-putting. But other types of mistakes are sometimes when you don't acknowledge the intuition that other people have, or if you aren't tapping into what people already know about the industry. And that's a very it's a place where you can look real dumb real fast. Right? So if you don't acknowledge and tap into certain elements of intuition that already exist and been proven out over time, the egg on your face possibility goes up much higher. I think the problem is there's an element that's sort of like that old marketing adage, which is of that intuition, half of it's right, I just don't know which half.
Right.
And so that's the hard part. Is to that's where the quick testing and sort of failing quickly is part of it.
Yeah. So what can't analytics do in the creative process? Because ultimately, creating entertainment, whether the analytics helps lead you to Matt Damon as the star of it, it's a creative endeavor.
For sure. Yeah, we've always drawn very bright yellow lines around that creative process because at the end, at least for today, for as far as we can see, human beings are the ones who are driving that process, right? They're the ones who are interpreting these stories and then putting them back out into the world. Well, there's certain places that where analysts can inform that process, whether it's to help shape your opinion of an actor, or whether it's to help you understand maybe where people are really confused in a movie's editing process and post-production. Or it's to help you identify the audiences to make the movie as successful as it can possibly be. So we do try to be very clear about that sort of white line, bright yellow line. But by the same token, there's plenty of opportunity to at least, just like I was saying earlier, while you may talk to someone's agent and read the script and watch all their prior work, having a perspective on what kind of audience they generate, having a perspective on the ability that they might have to generate box office just by their presence or whatever baggage they might carry, it's just more that should be input into decision.
Yeah. So in 5 years, how is the movie process different?
Well, the biggest change will be the distribution channels, right, which is actually obviously happening right in front of us. Right? So the changes in how people are consuming this content. What's been really remarkable is to see that there's still this sort of polarization. Right? There's still really big content. Like we have a movie called Aquaman coming out in a couple weeks. That's a big movie that deserves to be in a big setting. Even a movie like The Meg, which we had in July. That polarization means that movies like that have a chance to be really hyper successful still in the theater setting. But there are lots of other pieces of content that might have in the past, because of the more limited set of distribution options, being forced toward a movie or maybe some kind of direct release somewhere to like a video or something.
Well, we don't want to have AI making the decision about what movies are.
I wouldn't want to be a part of that.
What's that?
I wouldn't want to be a part of that either as someone on the production side of it or the consumer side of it.
Why is that? I mean, AI is getting better.
It certainly is, yeah. But there's still it's like that thing with animation where they talk about humans that are so capable of, like everyone can make a very realistic movie with backgrounds that look incredibly naturalistic, but faces are very hard, right? Because humans are so good at faces. I think humans are also really good at stories, understanding stories, and AI,
For now,
Yeah, again, you said 5 years, maybe 10 or 20.
Yeah, okay.
But in 5 years, it's still as well.
Okay, so final thing is, what is one area, I mean, we talked about sports, we talked about entertainment, politics obviously has been really impacted by the application of analytics models. What is one area you think that can use a really heavy dose of analytics to improve?
It's a good question. I haven't thought about it a ton. I mean, an area that's intriguing me, which I know is using analytics, and it's only because it's somewhat adjacent to what I think about all the time, is media, right? So in terms of journalism, things of that nature, right? There's so much scale that's available now in terms of what's being produced in content, questions around who's producing, how they're producing, all those things. There's a lot of possibility there because there's so many, everyone can be an author at this point. And so there's something interesting to me about that world. Again, I haven't thought about it, but it feels like there's something untapped there. To be perfectly honest, all these other opportunities have come to me. Like I haven't necessarily offered them myself, so I may not be the best person to go find the next one.
Okay, cool. Matt, thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Great.